So the last time you were on, Ken, with me, we spoke about a criminal escaping from a Garda station, and we're back on again to talk about something that's a different, very different case. But again, somebody in custody has managed to walk out, and it sparked this nationwide manhunt. What do we know about this individual?
Well, the individual, he's suspected of being the leader of an organised crime gang in the southeast of the country. He's from Kilkenny. He's 42 years old. He'd been arrested 4 days before he escaped from Kilkenny Garda Station, and he was being questioned about directing the activities of an organised crime gang, which is a very serious offence that can attract a maximum sentence of life in prison. The gang that he's suspected of being the leader of has about 20 members. They're all generally based around the Kilkenny area, but they also would be quite significant players in the drug market in the nearby counties of Carlow and Tipperary as well. There's a number of females within this criminal organisation, but he would be considered a main person. He'd spent many years living in Manchester. He's got quite a strong criminal, very good criminal network. And Gardaí, it's understood, detective had spent many, many months building this case against him. These are kind of, as you know, very complex cases.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very few people that would be even questioned at that level about directing a criminal gang. I mean, we have had some people convicted of that charge. Barry Young, for example, I think most recently in Sligo, and he pled guilty as early as possible and still got an 11-year sentence. So it's really probably one of the more serious charges available, just below a murder charge, really.
Yeah, well, the very fact it can attract such the ultimate sanction. This particular gang wouldn't been hugely on our radar before, Niall, but obviously for Gardaí in the southeast, they've been monitoring the activities of this particular organised crime gang for a number of years. In particular, there've been the drugs that they've been trafficking is mainly cocaine and cannabis.
Yeah, because you see again that 20 years ago or whatever, you might have had a local drug dealer in a place like Kilkenny, but the fact that cocaine is spread to every little village and every town means these kind of rural crime gangs, they can be generate huge amounts of money now. Things have totally changed.
Yes, and they're kind of they're, for want of a better word, they're almost doing their own thing as well. It's not that they're hugely linked to some of the more prominent networks that we talk about on this show, but in their own right, they're considered very significant, and there had been a huge amount of work done prior to this individual's arrest, which there had been no publicity about. He escaped on a Monday evening.
So how did he walk out, literally?
Well, while the exact details are not fully clear, he'd been in custody. He'd been arrested on the Thursday before, and he made his escape on the Monday evening. So he'd been in custody. He can be held for up to a week on those charges, and there was an expectation that Gardaí were probably had enough evidence to bring him to court to charge him with these offences. But he'd had a consultation with his solicitor, and because he'd been in custody a number of times before in Kilkenny Guard Station, he, for want of a better word again, he seemed to know the lay of the land. And it just, unfortunately, and it so happened that a door that was meant to be locked was unlocked. And when he was meant to be on his way back to his cell, he managed to get out this door, and he hasn't been seen since.
No, he's still at large. However, a man who's believed to have been one of his associates has been picked up, though ultimately released without charge as well.
Yes. So obviously, when this happened on Monday night of last week, it's kicked off a massive Garda investigation. So on the 2 days later, the night after, actually, it was late, an associate, a junior associate of the criminal who's on the run, was arrested. The reason for this arrest was that CCTV had shown a red Volkswagen golf connected to this suspect in the vicinity of Kilkenny Garda Station. So the guards arrested him and searched his house and searched other properties connected to this individual. I think he was brought into custody and questioned, but it quickly became evident that he, in fact, hadn't picked up the more senior criminal, but had been asked to.
Yeah.
And investigations then established Gardaí believed that up to 4 cars or 4 vehicles were involved, had been dispatched to pick up this criminal who walked out who walked out of the guard station. Gardaí are satisfied he didn't have a mobile phone himself. So it of course begs the question of how did so many people know so quickly to be in a position to pick this to attempt to get this guy out of Kilkenny.
Now, there have been rumours, have there, that he's left the country, and he obviously has that connection with the UK that you've spoken about, and I think some other countries have been named. Do the guards have a definite line of inquiry in that way?
There hasn't been as of yet. Made some inquiries this morning, Niall, and it is believed at this point he's in the UK that the most likely thing that happened was that he was smuggled across the border in Northern Ireland. He also has significant property interest himself in Turkey, which is obviously not part of the EU, so there isn't the same extradition agreements that we have.
No, I mean, it'd be much more complicated to get somebody extradited from Turkey on a charge like that, directing a criminal gang, because the laws have to match.
Yes.
And we saw, obviously, Nicky McConnell, one of the killers of Garrett Hutch, was extradited from Turkey, but a murder charge is murder in the two countries, and it's much easier. It could be much more complicated with a charge like this.
Exactly. And in saying that, there's no information yet that he is actually in Turkey, but I had mentioned he had spent a number of years living in Manchester, but he also has connections to family connections as well to Northern Ireland and the English city of Luton as well. So the suspicion is that somehow that he could have easily been brought across the border and from there made it over to the mainland UK.
Which you can do on a ferry. Like it's much more straightforward than getting on a plane, and there's a lot less checks. Does it show, I suppose, Kilkenny is an unusual area because I'm trying to think, have we ever written about organised crime in Kilkenny ahead of this? Certainly not for many years.
Exactly. But I suppose, Kilkenny, it's a lovely, it's considered a city actually, but
quite a wealthy areas of the country, but drugs are everywhere.
Of course, but apart from the fact that you mentioned earlier that drugs are essentially in every other village, with Kilkenny as well, you have to remember it's stags, hen parties, they're massive. And well, cocaine is not a feature of all those. Certainly when you have a town or a city that's so popular from a social point of view, there's going to be a lot of cocaine. There's a big market for cocaine.
Yeah, and these criminal networks are growing in rural Ireland. Like, they're very bedded down. Like, obviously Sligo was always the one that there was a bit of focus on, but some of that was because of gun crime and people being murdered. If these criminal gangs can really grow, and if there's not murders, they don't really get the national attention, I don't think.
Exactly, but even as we speak here today, last night, there was a shooting in Ballinasloe in County Galway. And again, it's something probably that's never featured on this show. There's a very serious criminal feud going on in Ballinasloe that actually spills into, apart from County Galway, it's spilling into other counties, nearby counties such as Offaly and Mayo as well. So, yeah, rural organised crime certainly is a growing thing.
Yeah, and you could see from the Barry Young evidence, because it was one of the bizarre bits of it was that he was doing it all on WhatsApp, which was very unusual. But you can see that the amount of money that is to be made, like, there is huge money to be made quickly now. You're not going to be buying properties in Dubai, but these people can become very, very wealthy from crime.
Yes, and of course, one of the troubling aspects of all this is the fact that violence goes hand in hand with all that, and intimidation, as we saw with the Barry Young case. Now, the guards in Sligo done a brilliant job, and they're still actually just. I think there's only one person, excuse me, outstanding to face the courts, and there must be, I think, well over a dozen have been given various sentences in relation to their roles within Barry Young's organised crime gang.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of is it a criminal offence from getting out of a Garda station when you're being
Oh, it
questioned?
is.
It is, isn't
Yeah,
it? Like,
you're escaping from lawful custody.
yeah,
So you had mentioned there at the start about the Bonnie and Clyde situation as it emerged, where an individual who's now in custody, we can't name him obviously for legal reasons, he jumped the wall of Balbriggan Guard Station back in April, and then himself and his girlfriend went on an alleged crime spree, basically across all of Ireland, which we covered here, and it went on for a couple of months before he was finally arrested in a big armed guard operation in the middle of June, and he's been in custody ever since. So
yeah, and it is a charge, even though you're not, these people are suspects and they're being questioned. It's still a charge, because there was another guy, wasn't there, from one of the Drogheda Few gangs as well, I think, who got
yes,
out and was
taunting the guards on social media and so on, but he was caught after a while. In the latest case involving this alleged Kilkenny gang boss, unlike maybe some of those other individuals, there's fears that this guy's international connections meant he got, now look, we could be proved wrong, but got out of the country very quickly.
yeah. And you can see about these people springing into action really to help him escape. It puts it in a different context really than some guy jumping over the wall.
Exactly, and even though the individual, as we know, who jumped over the wall the crime spree he embarked on in terms of robbing cars and commercial premises and residential burglaries as well, caused a lot of grief and certainly a lot of angst to Gardaí. He did not have the same criminal clout or network.
No, or that organisation behind him.
Yes.
Okay, well, look, we'll come back to it, and it's an interesting look at rural crime as well, which we should keep an eye on for sure.
Thanks very much, Niall.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.